For more great retail real estate content, like, share, and subscribe.
The purpose of this video is to talk about lease security. And by that, we're talking about the security deposit and a lease guarantee. So these are things that are not going to get negotiated until later on in the process during LOI and lease negotiations, but they're conceptually really important for you to have in your brain at the earliest stages, because these are things that affect your personal finances and can get really tricky and kind of emotional depending on your situation. So we think it's best that you kind of know what's coming down the pike and give yourself enough time to prepare. So lease security comes in two forms. It's a security deposit and a lease guarantee, and that's in most cases. So what that is, that when you're signing a lease, you are making a promise to the landlord that you're going to pay a certain amount of rent for however many months, for however many years. The security is what the landlord has to know that you're going to make good on those payments, basically, no matter what happens. Like, no matter if you change your mind about your business or your business isn't successful, the landlord knows that they're going to be, that your agreement's still going to be made whole. So as you can tell, it's already a really thorny subject, because it's sort of already starting from an assumption that you're not paying rent. So that's one of the many reasons why this can be a tricky thing to discuss. So before we get into it, Abby, why don't you introduce to us what exactly lease security is in terms of security deposit and the guarantee?
Yes. So generally, it is those two components that we're talking about: a security deposit, which is either cash, or an amount, a letter of credit, which is secured by cash, that's paid up front, generally when you're signing the lease, and not until and held until you open. And so that is a line item that you need to make sure you have in your capital budget. And then generally, there will also be a guarantee. That could be a personal guarantee, it could be a corporate guarantee. If it is a new business or a relatively young business, you can expect to be asked to put up a personal guarantee. And so what that is a legal promise that you're going to make good on the terms in your lease. So you may be wondering, I'm already signing a lease. Why do I need to make this second promise, this second guarantee? I already said I would pay all of this rent. The short and uncomplicated answer is that in most cases, you personally are not going to be signing that lease, right? Let's say Sheila is opening a cupcake shop. Probably the entity signing the lease is going to be Sheila's Cupcakes LLC or some version of that, not Sheila Tereshik, the individual. What is Sheila's Cupcakes LLC? If it's a brand new business, or even if it's a business that's just a couple years old, that business does not have the strong credit history. It may have no credit history if it's brand new, but it doesn't have as many years as you, the individual, do, as building credit and demonstrating that you are personally credit worthy. And so that is why this guarantee concept will come into play. As Sheila mentioned, you may not be guaranteeing all of the rent for the entire term of the lease. That is often a number that is negotiated down, and we've got more videos on how you can start to think about that. And obviously your broker is going to be hugely helpful, and your lawyer in determining sort of what is an appropriate size of a personal guarantee. But we do want to introduce the concept, because we don't want you to be surprised by this when this happens, a month or two into LOI negotiations, that all of a sudden the landlord is, requesting this. And the last piece of that is, it may seem kind of crazy that you wouldn't talk about a guarantee that is such an important thing until you're down the road in LOI negotiations. It's with good reason, right? When you start looking at a space and you start pursuing the terms under which you would lease that space, you don't know the landlord yet. You don't necessarily trust them. And so for the landlord to immediately request to see all of your personal financials and start to make determinations about how they're going to go after you if you stop paying your rent, many landlords and brokers don't like to start negotiations that way. And so anyway, it's not for no reason that this doesn't happen until the end of LOI negotiations. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be aware of it now. You certainly should.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the most important reasons that we bring this up early, and we encourage you to think about it early, not just to think about it and familiarize yourself with these concepts, especially the personal guarantee. The security deposit is going to be cash in some form that you have to put up in the beginning. So you just need to like budget for it. But the guarantee is more serious in the sense that, like, in most cases, if you're providing a personal guarantee of any length, it's your assets that become the guarantee, that's saying like there's money there to pay this rent should you go out of business or decide not to do it anymore. So obviously, if you have commingled finances with anybody else, like anybody who shares a bank account with you, owns assets with you, they are very much going to care about what kind of agreement you're signing. And so for everyone's domestic tranquility, don't leave this conversation for the last minute. You want to familiarize yourself with the concept. And while you might not be able to discuss the numbers, right, because the numbers are going to get negotiated in the deal, you should absolutely be making sure that anybody who has a say in your finances or shares any sort of assets with you is understanding that you may be asked to agree to sign this guarantee, because you want to make sure that you're both on the same page. That means that in most cases, you should be consulting your financial advisor or your attorney, or your astrologist, whoever you need to make you and any partners feel comfortable with whatever you're signing. It's really important that you start these conversations now, because we always say at Petal, like, your relationships are the most important thing that you have of value. No one starts a business hoping to like divorce or ruin relationships. So that's exactly why we tell you to start thinking and talking about this early. So go check out the other videos on the security deposit and the guarantee. Familiarize yourself with the concept and talk to whatever sort of professional advisors you have to understand how your personal situation might be affected by this, so that when, not if, it comes time for you to participate in negotiating your security deposit and guarantee, you're prepared for that conversation.